everybody. This is Frank, and today what I'm going to discuss is creating a pattern from a photo. So this photo, which you'll see I'll superimpose down here somewhere, this is a photo of Brutus, the newest fur baby to the house. I got him, oh gosh, probably about a year ago, and this picture is actually a picture of him the day that I brought him in here. And I brought him down to the studio, and you'll see in the background, everything that's back there, and he's standing right there basically on the corner of the table, and I took a photo of him. So I'm going to actually turn him into a piece of stained glass. Now today though, I'm just going to show you how to actually turn this into an actual workable pattern. It's not hard. When I have clients that want to have, say, a memorial piece, made, a caricature of an individual or a pet, a fur baby, this is primarily the method that I use to create the patterns, for those. So I'm going to take you step by step through that. Basically, what you need is a marker, a pencil, another marker, eraser, all that good stuff. A light table will come in handy to go to the next step, which we'll be getting to that here in a moment. Now, if you do not have a light table, once I get to that point, what you can do instead is use a window in your house. And you could actually take the pieces of paper, when you're going to transfer to make the clean pattern, and sandwich them and tape them onto that window, and then use the sunlight coming through there to actually do the transfer. So if you don't have the availability of a light box, then the window trick will work. So, all right. So basically, what I'm doing is I'm looking at this, and I have this other camera running so that I can superimpose some close-up of the actual work that I'm doing. So this will give you an overall, and then that'll give you some close-up shots. So what I'm going to do is, obviously I don't want anything that's in the background, and I want really just this portion of them, and then I'll turn that into a panel, which I will actually go ahead and create, and I'll probably do some video of that, because I'll probably do that in copper foil. I might go ahead and do it in lead, we'll see. This depends on how I feel that day. But I'll show you how that process works and all of that. So basically on this, what I did was I printed it out. If you have a software program, when you look at the picture, or many times there's the print interface where you can actually darken and lighten the pictures. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but when I did my first print, and this is just on a draft quality, it was pretty dark, so it was hard to kind of get some of the facial features. So what I did was I just lightened it up, in there, and so that way I was able to get the mouth and just everything that I wanted as far as the facial features. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a sharp Mark-Salt Sharpie, and you're going to be looking for the contours and everything. So on something like this, I like to start out with like the ear, and just follow the contour around. And if you make a little mistake here or there, that's fine, because when you make the final pattern, then at that point you can make any little changes that you need to. So right now I want to get really, really close to it. I'm not sweating if I get a little bit off on the lines. Come up for the muzzle, snout. It's amazing how much he has grown since I brought him home. I was looking at this picture and looking at him. He's still a small little doggy, but it's just amazing. It's just like children, just night and day, um, growing like weeds. Right up top here. So you really kind of want to get the contours of all the major features down first. Then you can add in lines for contrast, for coloration, things like that. Now, I'm not going to include the collar, so it's just going to be the neck. And I love the angle that this photo was taken at. His head's a little bit bigger, because the way I was focusing down on him. So it has a really neat look, like he's just looking right out at you. I want to keep that. Now that I'm drawing this, I see I don't want that line there, so I'm just going to take that out. So you can kind of see the fill that I've got there. With the body being the coloration that it is, I could go into more detail for where the coloration is and break these areas up and have more of a tan, amber, brown, and then more of a white, brown in some of these areas if I wanted to, but I'm not really going to do that. What I want to do is just catch all the major differences. So that, break line in there. So that's going to be a dark area, and then the light area. Same there, and same with this. Break line, dark area. There. Now, this coloration that's here, this dark coloration, I don't really necessarily need it, because the glass that I'll be picking, will give me that feel. So I'm going to actually leave that out. Same with the ears. I'm just going to do them. Well, no, let's take that back. I'm going to go ahead and do the contrast on the ears. I think that'll look nice. Yeah, just like that. Now, break lines. I'm kind of old school, and you'll find this out about me. If you can't make the cut by hand, with a hand cutter, with the relief cuts and everything, you shouldn't make the cut. Now, I know there's a lot of people that use saws, the diamond saws and whatnot, and sometimes that's because their hands, they have problems, so it's just a lot easier. I've used the saws. I actually don't own one right now, but I've used them and sold them, and I would use them on thicker glass, some of the really highly textured glass, drapery glass, things like that, but not even a lot then. Most of my cuts were always by hand, and everything is by hand now. So what I'm getting towards is you need to put in some break lines in here. If you're one of those in the thought process of it's okay to just go ahead and cut this out as a solid piece, there's nothing that I can say to stop you other than just think about the longevity of the piece. When I design something, when I build it, I literally want it, even if it's a sun catcher, I want it to be able to be handed down to another generation of whoever I gave it to, um, and beyond that, even. And the issue with when you do cuts like this, where there's no relief break in there, it is going to break at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And who knows, it might be 20 years down the road, but most likely it'll be sooner than that. And many times where people get into problems is once they start foiling. Let's say, for instance, this is a foil piece and not leaded, which it would have to be if you're going to do that solid, and then just drop these into it. But once you start soldering in these areas, the temperature differential from it going from the ambient temperature of the room and whatnot to all of a sudden, you're 700 or 800 degrees, whatever you're working at with your iron, that can break it. And a lot of times that's what happens, is the pieces will break at that point. Now, if they survive that, that's great. One of the other issues too, though, is when you come in on like some strong concaves like this, and you're putting your foil in there and you're crimping it down, that foil will split. So if you just ignore it and you leave it, and again, I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that, I don't want to leave it, but a lot of people will, and so it'll have those splits in there, and that bead won't look good when all is said and done. So then what that means is to fix that, then you have to lay in some more foil over and take an X-Acto knife and trim it and make it look good. Now, in the longer term, as far as these go, you got to remember, if they're setting up in a window, there's sunlight coming through, so there's expansion and contraction happening all the time of this glass. And that's why I say it's not really a matter of if it is going to break, it's a matter really of when, because the odds are more towards that it is going to break than it is not. So anyway, at this stage, then I find my break lines, and I think probably like on this one, what I'll do is I'll just continue that line over like that. Then probably on this one, there's a few ways this could go, but I think probably the best thing would be to come up like that and break line there, because that'll give me a solid piece. These are a couple of concave curves that are really not too hard to cut out, that form this, so this could cause people a little bit of problem, but it should be fine. These I'm actually okay with, that's fine. This is going to be a very, very thin piece. Most likely what's going to happen is it's going to need to have a break line like right there. So I'll just put that in there and it's there. Beyond that, the basic pattern is actually finished. Now if you wanted to go and do a little bit more detail to this picture, you could go ahead and put in the collar in there. There's a whole host of things you could do, and like I said, you could actually go ahead and put the coloration in here in this portion. I just don't want to. And now when this is all finished, and again I don't know how I'm going to put it together, but most likely what I will do is put some wire and attach it on there as they are whiskers. And I put little tiny solder globs so it looks like the little area where the hair pokes out of, and then just brain some whiskers out, and most likely leave it, a silver copper wire. But I think that will add, some neatness to it. So anyway, that's this process now. So now I'm going to take it to the light table and show you how to transfer that, and how to make a panel out of it. So we'll do the transfer, then we'll come back and we'll do something else around it and put it into it and all that good jazz. So I will be right back. Welcome to my cutting room. This is my main light table that I use. It has 3 of the old style Morton boards, which they don't make anymore, and I hate that. I absolutely love those boards. So I know the other ones are smaller and modular and all that good jazz, but yeah, this is the main one that I use to cut on and do a lot of my drawing transfers and whatnot. I have a smaller light table right over here that when I'm doing painting, for painting and firing, that I use that and stuff like that. So, and if you notice, you probably heard a whirring that started. That's because I've got a couple of fans that actually vent air out through here, and it keeps it cool. And in fact, actually, in the bottom of this table, I have a fan as well. I have it turned off for right now because these lights actually produce quite a bit of heat. I've got a couple of them that I need to replace, but there's still a lot of heat in there, and it'll actually kind of deform these boards just a little bit. But underneath each of these boards, underneath all, is one solid piece of tempered glass in there, plate glass, and that supports this. And then I have a middle support, which you can see the shadow of, and one there too, but I have these areas open here. So that supports it really well. I can take these boards out completely, work on the glass itself, and then I can also turn the boards over. And at one time they were nice and pristine and new, and they were white. I mean, with none of these oddities all over them, the stains and whatnot, and I could actually use that to do some artwork and whatnot on. But I have this, which is a piece of 3/16 glass that sandblast etched on the back to give it a nice frosting on there. And I use that. I'll normally just throw it right on top of here like I have right now, to use that as a nice smooth surface to actually draw on. So what I'm going to do is, I've got Brutus right there, and just another piece of paper I'm going to put over them. And now that I have light coming up through there, I can see all the delineation of that design, and I can copy it off really, really easily. Now you might want to tape it down so things don't shift. Personally, I don't mind if it shifts a little bit, because I'm going to hold it down and it's all going to shift together, and if it gets off a little bit, I can realign it myself pretty easy. So now I'm just going to go through and copy that off onto this. That will make a nice, clean, pristine pattern. And then what I'll do is keep the original in a 3-ring binder for future use. Alright, get all this delineation in here. And this is the point where you could make some slight changes if you wanted to, like there, a little bit of extra room there for the glass to be just a little bit thicker. Now once you get into the habit of being able to do these patterns from photos, the sky's the limit. It really is. But then let's say, for instance, you're into flowers. You just really, really love flowers. Well, you know, you can take pictures that you've taken of a favorite flower or whatnot and reproduce it. Like I said, on this is a really nice way to create some caricatures and replicate, somebody's dog, or a human or whatever. So it makes it easy to make some really nice memorial pieces. And then once you have this delineation done, this part of the drawing, you can take that again and change it up a little bit. So it's going to be a nice black and white. And thinking about what I'm going to do as far as what to put him into. So when I get finished with this, then I'll set the cameras back up into the studio and discuss what I'm going to do with it to create a panel. I think it's going to be a really neat one. And most likely where that goes under, and there's a little bit of the belly there, I'm going to probably end up cutting this off, probably like right about there, as far as when I place it into the piece. But yeah, we'll just go from there. So that's it. I mean, it's really easy peasy, to do it. And when I do the nose, probably what I'm going to do is I've got some small black nuggets. In fact, let me grab a couple real quick. I'll show you what I'm thinking about doing. And I have some that are a little bit smaller than this, so I'll probably have to be pretty choosy. But I will most likely overlay that into the nose. And I was thinking about maybe doing the same as far as a nugget for the eyes, and I could use a larger one and grind it to fit. So there's a couple of ideas there that I may use as we go along. But that's the way that you make a pattern from a photo. Like I say, it's really easy peasy. Once you get into it and you practice it more and more, you'll see that it is. So I'll be right back. Alright everybody, now that I've got Brutus outlined and turned into basically a pattern, I'm going to show you how to develop a larger pattern, something with this design element. It's a lot of people, especially when they first start out, they think that they have to be just these great fine artists, and you've got to be able to draw really, really well, and sometimes that discourages them from moving, outside of their comfort zone. Don't be. There are so many books. I mean, like what I've got over here on this wall, I have probably, I would guess probably about 300 pattern books, and then I have probably 1,000, 1,500 patterns beyond that, that I've acquired, over all the 2+ decades of doing this. But, you can take elements from all sorts of different things that you see and put them together pretty readily to actually make, your full-size pattern. So this is going to kind of show you how that can be done, and done really actually pretty easily. So what my thought was for Brutus there, I'm sitting there thinking, well, what can I do? What would be really kind of cute? I mean, you could just turn him into just a sun catcher, the way it is, and put some hanging loops on there and whatnot, and that would be awful cute. But I want to put him inside of a panel, so we're going to do a panel probably about 18 inches by 18 inches is what I'm thinking. And kind of what I'm thinking here, this is my thought process, and you'll see how this develops, is so we have something that's going to be 18 by 18, get a little square here. And don't laugh too much at my sketches, because they're I can do some pretty good art as far as, you know, pencil drawing and whatnot goes, and charcoals. Dabble a little bit in watercolors and whatnot. But when I'm developing sketches and things like this, it's very rudimentary. It's very rough, and then all the fine work as far as the delineation of the design gets done when it's full size, and I'm going to show you how to actually do that full size. So, to develop this, here's what I was thinking. Let's put Brutus inside of a doghouse, looking out. So let's say we have a doghouse. I'm just trying to kind of get the proportion where I want it. Let's say the doghouse is taking up that part. But the opening is going to be like here. Might actually kind of shorten it up a little bit, where it's more like that, because I want the bottom part of the body right there, about in this area, to be right there. You know, as if you're not seeing the full bottom of the doghouse, but he's just looking up and out of there. You know, just something really cute. So basically, he's going to be, you know, right up in this area here, and his body, you know, coming down and all of that. There's his ears. Like I said, don't laugh. This will actually turn out pretty good. Here, let's put a smile on him. Little nose. That's the scary dog right there. So here's the house. There's that. What I probably want to do is put a little bit of like land right behind there. And those lines don't have to be perfect. There's always a little curvature there. And we can just do a simple sky. So maybe something with, you know, some clouds right there, just to kind of break it up a little bit. And then the sky will just be, you know, something that comes along, and this be a break line. And just something really, really simple. Just catch a little bit of motion, you know, in that sky and whatnot. And some nice little wispy clouds up there, and then the doghouse right there. It can all be one solid, or you could put a deal across there like that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. So now you can see I've got the rough idea of what I want, and it's not fine art. It's you know, it's rudimentary. So now I'm going to take a piece of paper. I want it to be 18 by 18. Now it's going to be a decent size. So take this and tape it down. You know, the fun part is really in being able to create stuff from scratch. And like I say, it's not as daunting as you might feel that it is. And you just never know until you jump in there and you try it. And it's like anything, that if you're uncomfortable with it, unless you do it several times, you're never going to become comfortable with it. You don't know what your abilities are until you have pushed yourself into those areas where you don't feel so comfortable. So just do it. Alright, so got my tape measure there. Let's do this at 18 inches. About, do this line first. Like I say, having a couple of decent squares to work with are nice. Have these forever. I'm not too worried about it being an exact, but you know, let's pretend like I wanted to make it for sure an 18 by 18. So here's that. Now I know that this is squared up because I cut it square and everything, and I know it is. If you aren't as comfortable with knowing that your area that you're working on is square, then at that stage you could go ahead and grab your carpenter's square and go ahead and make your other lines. Here I'll just measure from the 1, go to 19 because I want it to be 18. I'm just using that 1 to make it where it's, you know, nice and accurate. And there are a lot of pieces of software out there that you can get, and I'm not going to name any off by name right now because I don't want to infringe on somebody's trademark or copyright. You know, you can just do a Google search for what they are. You know, stained glass programs. There are several of them out there. So there's some that you can use that will make it really easy for you. But doing it this way is also really easy. And for me, that intimate contact of drawing it out and everything, and knowing where I'm going to put all the break lines, and just, this is just part of the process that I really like. I'm not going to measure. I'm going to actually show you. I keep samples of all the perimeter material that I'm going to use. So this is like a piece of 1/2 inch use ink. You know, I've got all the different sizes, 1/8 inch to 3/4 and whatnot, and you know, lead and everything. Even though I'm going to probably go ahead and frame this in wood, so I could go ahead and use lead around the exterior if I wanted to. I'm going to go ahead and use zinc, because I might just go ahead and just leave it in the zinc. So what I'll do is use like a sample like this and just hold that up to here. What you do is you hold the, let's see if the other camera's catching this. You hold it up right there to the edge. So that's your outside side. And then you draw a line on the inside right there. That's your view. That's where you're actually viewing. And then you put your little line right there. That's your cut line. That cut line is, hopefully this is catching it really good, that's this line right in here where the glass is going to go into. You have to accommodate for this space. The same thing with lead, the heart of the lead and whatnot. You have to accommodate for that space, because if you don't, and that is including this material right here, if you don't, then your pattern will grow. And if you're actually making it to a size, let's say this 18 by 18 is meant to fit into an exact size with a little bit of give, because you always want to have like about an 1/8 inch play inside of a window if you're going to trim it in so it can expand and contract okay. But you would definitely not want it to grow, especially if you're using a hard cane on the outside like this use ink, because you can't file that down. You can't shave it down. Now if you used lead, it would be better to use an H channel on the perimeter in that instance versus a U. And here's the reason why, what I just had mentioned. If you get into a situation where when you're installing that and you see something has happened and maybe it's grown, it has a little bump, you know, where it shouldn't have, or maybe the window had kind of deflected in a little bit because it's settled, which structures do all the time. Then what you can do is, instead of crying and maybe saying a few bad words that you shouldn't say, you take a metal file and you file that outside of the flange of the lead, that H channel that'd be out here on the outside, is file it down until it gets in there, it fits, and it has the proper amount of breathing room. So, and also lead is cheaper than zinc. So when you're doing an application like that, then you might just want to go ahead and use lead instead of the zinc. Alright, so this is my view line, and then my cut line I make into dashes. That's just how I've learned and what I do. You know, everybody has little different ways, and some people want to use different color for the inks and whatnot to differentiate between like the different areas, and that's fine if that's what they want to do. For me, I know that this is my cut line, and that's the most important thing. The view line, the reason I put it in there is just so that I can see as I'm creating the pattern if there are any areas of finer detail out towards that edge, if it's going to obscure it too much. That can be very important. It really can. So that's why I do the view line also. But the cut line is just dashes. That's all I need. No, I don't have carbon or anything underneath it to make copies, and you'll see why here in a little bit, because we're going to be lifting it up and doing some things with it. When I'm ready to make my copy, then I just go ahead and put down, you know, the paper, carbon, usually another layer of paper, carbon, and then the original over it, tape it down, and then go ahead and trace back over it. You know, go ahead and do the lineation over it and create my copies that way. And then I like to take photos of them straight down. So sometimes I get up onto my table, depending on the size of the drawing, of course, and be, you know, looking straight down on it and take those photos, because at an angle it distorts proportions a little bit. But what that does is it allows me to keep a digital archive of the drawing, and I can actually reproduce that drawing. I could go and take it to a print service and get it printed out to a size that I wanted to. Or really, since I do all the drawings myself, what I do is I can just print it out on an 8x10 and just look at it and then just start drawing it out. So I've got this made. Double check my size, make sure it's 18 by 18. It's better to measure twice and then realize you screwed up and change it at this stage versus later on. So now I want to do the doghouse in there, and I do want to make it symmetric as far as centered left to right. So I need my halfway point in here, which is going to be 9 inches. So if I go from the 1, then it'll be 10. Just to double check that, then I'll go 1 to 10. Yep, that looks good. I will grab a different, a little bit shorter. That's not long enough. Use this one. What I'll do is draw that center line in there just so I know where it is for reference, and just put it in there very, very lightly so you can hardly see it. Now what I'm thinking is, let's see here, he's going to set in there basically like that. So that opening needs to be probably here to here, and then the width of the house, say, is probably about there. So now what I'll do is I'll measure that out. So looks like that's about 3.5 inches. So I'll mark that out there, and then I'll go to 5 inches there. So now mark this over here, and then my 3.5 inches here. If I want to double check, I just look and see what the distance is between those two. It looks like 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. So those actually add up. Get rid of these so they don't confuse me. Alright. Now, he's going to sit in there, like I say, probably about like about like so is how he should sit. So that means the top of that curve is going to be basically right there. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm happy with. So I'll come over here and make my... Alright, welcome back. So I've got to get used to this GoPro stopping at 20 minutes. I guess I'm going to have to like set an alarm or something, because I'm just tooling along and I had this whole thing finished. I'm getting ready to do my video editing and I look at the file and it stops right at 20 minutes. So basically, hey look, here we are, we're all done, finished, bye. What I did was I went through and I drew all of this out into here. I made sure to notate the sizes of the lead that I'm going to be using. So like for this roof portion, it's going to be probably a 3/8 or a 1/2 inch. I put 3/8 down there. And then when it comes out to that brake line, it'll just be a piece of 1/8 inch. Brake line like that will be 1/8 inch. I'll probably use 1/4 around here and then 3/16 around that opening. And then I'll vary probably 3/16 and 1/8 inch for Brutus, and then like 1/8 inch for the brake lines in here. And what I did, you can use your light table, or again, if you don't have a light table, you can use a window and tape it all up to it. Hopefully you have a good enough size window to do it. But where there's a will, there's a way. But since I was able to just see right underneath here, I just put the pattern right there. And from this shot, you can see where you can actually see through it. So what I did was I just placed him in there the way I wanted him, and then just traced him out. So I guess in a way this works out because it'll actually make the length of the video a little bit shorter. But yeah, that's what I did, was I just went ahead and traced him into there. And then for this top of this curvature, because I do want it to be symmetric, I will go ahead and take that into the light table and do it. What I'll do is I'll fold it up at the halfway point right there, and then I can go through and see where that other curve is right there, and just go ahead and put it in right there. It looks like I was pretty close to start with. So that way the symmetry is there. There's some things, I mean, you got to have some symmetry too. Beyond that, glass selection wise, I could put more detail in here and put a couple of different tones for the grass that's back behind here. Could do the same thing for the sky, but I'm not going to. I'll just, I've got some really nice wispy stuff that has some variations within it, so I'll just let the glass speak to it. But that's basically it. Doing a pattern from a photo is not as daunting as you might think it is. So just give it a try. It really isn't that hard. I've got so many pattern books, like most of you probably do. I've got hundreds of pattern books and thousands of patterns all together probably, and you can sit there and take design elements and put them into whatever your size is going to be. You just draw out your size and then you just start filling it in, and then taking those photos. It's just real easy. So I mean, if you did have a client, you were doing something for somebody, they were paying you, or just a friend or whomever, and say they had a little puppy that maybe had passed away or something, that it just means so much to them to actually have that likeness of their fuzz baby, with them. But like I say, it's a lot easier than what most people realize, and you just gotta, give it a try. You can sit there and then look at it once you're done like this. Like I know the proportion of the eyes are off, so I'll go through and I'll erase it out, and then I'll make some changes before I go through with my Mark-Sol Sharpie. After I know everything's good, then I'll go through with my Mark-Sol Sharpie and go ahead and black out all that lineation there. And as far as that exterior, I just won't black that out. That I'll actually leave pencil. Um, but I'll do the dashes and then the solid, because I just want the cut line to be right there and not have the other solid other than in pencil. Um, just as another quick side note, and this is something that I will be saying probably in a lot of my videos that I do, is no matter what country you're in, U.S., wherever you are in the world, support your local vendors. By that, what I mean is that, we have such a vibrant and a wonderful art, a craft, a trade, and no matter whether you're doing it professionally or as a hobbyist, try to support as much of your local market as you can. Because those folks with like the stained glass studios, I mean, there's the manufacturer, there's the wholesaler, there's the retailer that then sells to probably the majority of you. And they have to be supported to be there. It's great to buy stuff online and whatnot and save money. In this day and age, money's hard to come by. So saving money is a good thing. Excuse me. But if you think about the larger scheme of things, if you're buying a $20 item and you see it online and it's say only a couple of bucks cheaper than going to your local studio, spend that extra $2 at your studio, because that mom and pop shop, those folks are there to help you. They're more than just somebody that's shipping you a product. They're more than somebody that's just selling you a product and then saying goodbye. They're helping you with your questions. You walk in there with a pattern and go, hey, I need help with. They're gonna stop what they're doing. They're gonna help you. I've never met any so far that haven't. I mean, I always did. Because the hobby sales, while they weren't as large as the commissions and the custom work and all that stuff, it still made up a significant amount of sales. So, that helps them pay their bills. That keeps their doors open, And when they're selling supplies to you, they're able to buy more and hopefully get better deals and hopefully in turn pass that down to you. But it's just a matter of the resource. So if you're only saving a few dollars here or there, is it worth potentially losing that resource? And then it's a trickle up effect or trickle down, however way you want to look at it, because then those studios start going out of business. They're the ones that are buying in bulk and in mass generally. So now all of a sudden the wholesalers aren't selling as much, which means that the manufacturers aren't getting the same size orders that they used to. So to keep this a vibrant art, craft, trade, hobby, however you want to refer to it as, keep it vibrant and viable, shop local. Keep your dollars as local as possible. Trust me, they will definitely appreciate it. So again, I hope this video has helped you out. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments. If you have not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. And please share my channel with any of your friends, on your social media, on your Facebook, your Twitter, your Instagrammies, whatever. Share it, with them and let them know so more people are seeing what I'm doing, because I'm trying to, make these videos for everybody to help everyone out. And if there's a particular video that you would like to see done, put it in the comments and I will do my best. I'll keep a list and I'll do my best to knock those out, and so I can help all of you out with your specific needs. Again, hope this has helped you. Just jump in there and give it a try, because it's a lot of fun and it's a lot easier than you think that it is. I promise you. You just got to get in there and do it. Get outside of your comfort zone. It's a lot easier peasier than you think. So have a wonderful day.